What is good with y'all, man? I'm back with another video, man. Before I start this video, I hate that it took me so long to get another video out. Just been a lot going on, you know. I got a life outside of just YouTube and, you know, y'all know that. So, I mean, like I said, I hate that it took me so long to get this video out, but if you guys, a lot of y'all have been wondering and asking me, I've seen it in the Instagram comments, the TikTok comments. Like, a lot of y'all been wanting to know my whole football journey. So if y'all trying to figure out, like, how was I a walk-on who went from 1 year of high school football to playing D1, right? How did I get noticed by the coaches? A lot of y'all been asking me stuff like that in a lot of my comments, a lot of my social media. This is the video for you, because in this video, I'm gonna be going through it all, man. I'm gonna be going through my whole football journey, how I started, how I was able to walk on, and how that basically translates to where I am now. So think this is gonna be a very helpful video for a lot of y'all watching, man. And I hope y'all enjoy it. I hope y'all are able to take some inspiration, some knowledge out of it, man. So without further ado, man, let's get straight into it, bro. Before I get into that real quick though, I wanted to show y'all something real quick. I wanted to make sure y'all see the gear, y'all see the fit, man. You got the Johnson & Scott tee, love yourself as much as I love you. I got that with the mixed emotion shorts, if you see right here. Both of those brands are brands that I'm partnered with. If you go to the link in my bio, the link in the description in this video, the link in my bio in my Instagram, my TikTok, and all my other social media, you'll see my code Justin E to use on those brands, on that gear, to save yourself some money, man. So go ahead and check those brands out. Dope tee, dope shorts. But anyway, as I said, in this video, I'll basically be telling my whole football journey, my whole football story, man. I'll be able to answer some questions you guys asked me on Instagram. It will be a little bit of a Q&A too from some of the questions you asked me. And we'll just see and we'll go from there and make sure that you guys kind of understand my journey, understand my story, and how I got to where I am currently now. So basically, my football journey is definitely unique. Definitely wasn't something or a journey that a lot of football players take. Before my senior year in high school, I almost never played football. Like, almost never played football. Like, I say that because I played like really sparingly, really like little when I was in 5th or 6th grade, I think. At that point, I was a whole different person. Like, I was playing D-end and offensive line. So like, it was a totally different time, you feel me? Like, ain't no way I'm doing that now. But I don't even think I was on the team for a whole season. So basically, I didn't really play football until my senior year of high school. And the reason for that is because I come from a family, man. Like, if y'all know, my dad, both my parents are immigrants, right? My mom is West African, my dad is from Belize. So if you ever come from like an immigrant family, you always know that they always be like harping on the grades. You got to make sure that your academics are on point. It wasn't that I had bad grades throughout high school, but they weren't as good as like my parents' expectations were for that, you know. And then added to that, my mom's in the medical field, right? My mom's a doctor. So she was already afraid of me, like, you know, playing football anyway, because she's like, all the health risks, the concussions, all that stuff. So like, it was kind of like that reason, but then also because my grades weren't like where they needed to be, it was like, that was just like the icing on the cake. They was like, oh, for sure you're not playing football. So it wasn't until I said my senior year, but actually my junior year is when I first started to take football like kind of seriously. I started to go to the summer workouts, the summer trainings, the two-a-days. The thing is, I didn't play that season because during that summer, I had gotten a new job basically. I think I started working at Walmart during that summer. I don't know if it's different now, but basically, when you get I think when you start working at Walmart, they have a certain time or a certain like time slots that they schedule you in that you can't like change. So my work schedule was basically conflicting with like the workout and the two-a-day schedule. And at the time, our head coach, who wasn't there next year, he was kind of like a real old-fashioned older coach. He felt like, you know, I needed to be committed to the team, needed to be there all the time, which was fair. I'm not saying he was wrong for that, but you know, like I said, my schedule's just conflicted. So I remember telling him one time, like, hey, like, I gotta miss another few days. And at this point, I'd already missed a few days of workouts and training and two-a-days and stuff. And I was like, I just need to miss another few days because, or I can't come to this day because I gotta work. I could tell that he was upset, but he said, okay, He later emailed me that night and said, like, basically like in a long message, he was just like, yeah, if you can't make it to these days, you know, I can't have you on the team. So he basically kicked me off the team. Like I said, I wasn't even that upset at the time because I wasn't taking football as seriously as I probably should have, right? And as a coach, I understood where he was coming from in terms of like being committed to the team and having to be there. Keep in mind, we're starting at the beginning. So all this that I'm talking about now is feeding into how I'm gonna get into me playing in college and walking on and all that. So y'all stay with me, all right? So it wasn't until then, the next summer, my senior year, where I had everything in line. I was still working, but I had my work schedule set up. I had my own car so I could like transport myself anywhere I needed. So I was responsible for like, you know, paying for gas and stuff like that, you know. So, but I wanted to play football really bad this year for whatever reason. I just felt like this was my last year of high school. Like I'd been dodging it my whole high school career. I was running track. I was a pretty athletic kid already, like I said. So finally, summer going into my senior year, I finally like, you know, get everything together. I go through the training, I go through the 2 days, I go through everything, right? I played that year. I started at corner, believe it or not. And I remember that first game of the season, I started at corner, right? Like I said, at this time, I didn't know how to really play the game of football, but I was athletic enough to where my athleticism kind of carried me through. I was a senior and I was pretty well built physically, so I think that's why I got the starting job. So then I remember our first game, oh my goodness, our first game of the season, we got beat so bad. The team that we played is actually like the team that's right down the street from where I live. So I went to a private school downtown, right? But the school we played was actually right down the street from where I lived. That'd been the public school I went to if I went to public school. But they came and played us on our home field, and I don't even want to tell y'all the score. I think it was real bad. It was like 50 something to 3. During that game, like I said, my first real football game, I honestly, I probably gave up about 2 or 3 of those touchdowns. I remember I had like a missed tackle that went for a long play. I gave up a long pass. And there was probably something else too. And I remember like we get beat real bad and I'm driving home and like I'm already second guessing, like, is football for me? Is this sport for me? Like, dang, am I as good as I thought I was? You know, all those thoughts you have as an athlete when you don't perform how you want to perform. And it was like, I was just like going back and forth in my head. Like, it was bad, man. Like the fact that I almost stopped playing football after my first game, like, you know, I just wasn't feeling real good about myself. Like I said, it was a bad debut, man. So after that game, I end up getting benched and moved to second string, only for a few games. I think like 2 or 3 games, and I was still playing because I was still like the next DB up, you know, like in our nickel packages and stuff, and like if someone got hurt. And then I remember our 4th or 5th game, we kind of reshuffled the defense, and then like, you know, I got back into the starting lineup. My performance really improved. So at the end of the year, I had a decent season, but nothing special. I don't know, like at the end of the season, I kind of just fell in love with the game. Like I felt like I had done enough to where I was like, I could probably do this at the next level somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I go through that season, I go through that school year, right? I run track, I have my best track season I've ever had. I go to state for the hurdles. I also went to state for the 4x1. We had a good 4x1 relay team. So I have a good track season, and I remember I'm deciding on schools now. And at this point, I'm convinced that I want to play football. I want to be an athlete in school. And truthfully, if I had it my way, I wanted to do football and track. But I didn't realize how hard that was gonna be, or how hard that would be at the time. You know, now that I've been through college and kind of all that, I understand that would have been really hard to do. But basically on my college search, I had a few small school interests for track, none really for football, like a little bit. A lot of the schools I had were like Division III. I think I went and talked to a few Division II schools, but they were mostly Division III schools. You know, and that was kind of like my first whole introduction to the recruiting process, even though it wasn't really much of a recruiting process to begin with. And so I remember I visited like 1 or 2 of these schools, and let's go back to what I said before. Like I said, my family, school always comes first. Academics always come first. So I wanted to make sure that I was going to the right school for my academics. But then again, I told y'all I wanted to be an athlete really bad. And so I remember like discussing it with my family and stuff like that. And I had applied to Mizzou. You know, I had already gotten accepted. I was accepted into the journalism school, which is I think they say it's the best school in the country for journalism, right? My family, my parents were like, you should go to Mizzou because it was the best school for my academics, it being a big state school, so there's a lot of resources, a lot of people that can help you, you feel me? And so like with me, at the time, I was really discouraged because I was like, I didn't believe I could go and play or try and walk on an SEC program. Like in my mind, I'm like, these guys are so much bigger, faster, stronger than me. Like, how can I even do this? And I remember my dad had told me something right before I left for school. And he was like, if you want to do it that bad, you'll find a way to do it. So now we're at the point where like, okay, I've decided I'm going to Mizzou. So that summer, right? I remember I'm training with my high school team just to stay in shape, right? And I'm reaching out to coaches on the staff. I'm trying to email, trying to call, looking through the staff numbers, trying to call and contact anybody I could. And I wasn't really getting much, much headway into that. So I was kind of feeling down on myself, kind of discouraged, this and that. Now, I forgot to mention that as I'm this far into the story, I forgot to mention that I've actually already told this whole story on my TikTok already. And I told this story, I posted those videos maybe last summer. So if you've been tapped into my TikTok for like a long time, like if you like an OG follower, you feel me? Like you already know this story, right? But this is for people who are still following me, still looking at me, still supporting me, man, who are just getting tapped in, just tuning in, right, for the YouTube, so y'all can understand how I got to where I am now, or got to, be able to walk on and be where I am now. But anyway, back to the story. So now, I'm still contacting coaches, not hearing nothing. So now I'm on campus and I'm just a regular student. Like I said, like I'm at this point, I'm thinking I might not play football at all. And so, but what I did was when I went on campus, I went from my dorm and I went and I walked all the way to the football facility. So I remember one day, like I had moved in like a week early. There was like an early move-in date, so not many people were on campus yet. So I remember I like just took one day and I just walked all the way over to like the football stadium, the football facility. And at this time, the school probably would have been, or the team probably would have been in like fall camp. So I remember I walked in there and at that time they were doing new construction on the building. So I kind of just walked in. I mean, there wasn't really anybody guarding the doors. Door was open, I don't know, like, God was just with me that day, you feel me? So I walked in, right? And I go, and there's like 4 floors to the facility. So I go to the 4th floor, which is like the administrative offices, the coaches. As soon as I exit the elevator, I run into this guy who turned out to be the director of player personnel. I basically tell him my situation. I tell him I want to play, and he's like, okay, I got you. And he like, he takes down my information. Now keep in mind, if you've played sports, you know how coaches can be, especially football coaches or like administrators or anybody that works in sports. They tell you one thing and they just do a total other thing. So, right, I don't really believe that he's actually gonna give my information or pass my information on, but like what else am I supposed to do? He took my info and I just left. A few weeks after that, I couldn't tell you the time, but we were well into fall semester now. Like I was taking classes, I was just a student, football season was going on, so I remember like I get an email back from the director of recruiting, and he's like, hey, he basically was saying, I heard you stop by, would love to see if you'd still be able to join the team. And like, so I'm hyped, like I'm like, whoa, like they reached back out, like I was hyped. Like I remember I was like, I think I was in like a study room and I was just like so hyped, like I was jumping, I was just so happy they reached back out. So of course I emailed back, and that basically started like a whole process of us communicating back and forth, trying to figure out like, how this works. But keep in mind, like they weren't responding for like 2, maybe 3 weeks at a time. There were many times I would have to follow up just to make sure that they hadn't forgotten about me. And before I go in further in the story, that's one kind of lesson throughout this whole story I want to like tell to people. Like if you really want to walk on, which I know that a lot of you guys watching this video do, you have to be persistent. Like you got to understand that it's a business and that they got so many things and so many people that they have to watch and take care of, and they're not gonna remember a guy that's just trying to walk onto the team. They got so many people that are trying to walk onto the team anyway. So I had to keep checking in, had to keep checking up, making sure that they hadn't forgotten about me, because if I hadn't done that, they may have never reached back out to me. So eventually I kept kind of building a relationship with this recruiting guy, was able to go into the facility a few times, meet some of the coaches, meet some of the players, kind of build that rapport. Like I said, I was pretty athletic, I looked pretty athletic, so they kind of were convinced that, if I did what I needed to do at the tryout, or show them that I can move well, that I probably could be on the team, right? And so throughout that whole semester, I'm kind of communicating, like, you know, it's like off and on, this and that. And I filled out all the forms I needed to beforehand. Like, you know, I did everything I needed to do. And by that time, we're in winter break. So one semester has already passed. I'm not on the team. But at this point, I'm well on my way to be on the team. Like, I'm filling out the forms. I've done everything I needed to do. I'm even training. I'm going to the rec every day to make sure that I'm in shape, getting field work in. So, like, you know, in my mind, I'm ready. I'm like, just tell me when the tryout is. Tell me when I start. And I'm ready to go. You feel me? So eventually, we come back that next semester. I come back the next semester. And I get word that the tryout is in that February, right? And finally the tryout day comes. And when I tell you guys, it had to be over 100 guys at that tryout. Like, you know, like this is a walk-on tryout. At this point too, I didn't mention that we got a new head coach that last semester. So from that past season, the head coach there got fired. Some of the people on the staff got fired. So they were kind of bringing in new people and, you know, all that too. So that might have also explained the lack of communication or the on and off communication. But anyway, the new coach comes in, he brings in a few of his staff members, and they're having like a walk-on tryout, right? And like I said, it was like over 100 guys at that tryout, right? And a lot of y'all have asked me, like, what does a walk-on tryout look like? And I've answered this in my videos before, but just so y'all know, basically, it's just there to see how you move. They just want to see how you move based on your position. So for me, we did a lot of like bag drills, a lot of like just like stepping over bags, kind of like what a winter mat drill workout would look like. You know, a lot of conditioning work too. We had different stations, so we were jogging from one to the next. And so the keys, I think, to like making sure you do well at your workout is, of course, make sure you can move well, make sure your footwork is good, but make sure you're also in shape and well conditioned, because they're gonna see if you got your hands on your hips, or if you're bending over, or if you're not hustling to the next station. That they're all gonna take that into consideration. And so we were basically doing that. We ran a 40. They took our weight, they took our height. And we just did a bunch of movement drills, and then eventually guys split up and went into their own position drills. Me, I was with the DBs. So we did that basically. And it wasn't long, but it was definitely very like strenuous, very like, you know, high intensity, you know, but it wasn't long at all. And so, you know, after I was done, I felt like I did pretty good, because there weren't that many guys on the tryout that you could tell really played football, you know, or were really that athletic at all. A lot of guys just came and showed up. You know, I felt like for me, I was definitely one of the more, you know, like players that looked more athletic, was able to move more like a football player. And so, you know, and I'm not trying to brag, but I'm saying like a lot of times I was worrying so much about if I was gonna make it, and then when I got in, the competition was mainly just a bunch of guys just off the street, you know, or just off, you know, off campus, you know, who just wanted to play, but they never really played football at all, honestly. They were just kind of like, you know, maybe gym rats that wanted to play. But anyway, so basically after the trial, I knew I felt like I did good, but of course I don't know yet. Like, I have no guarantees. Turns out, yes, I did make it. Out of 100 of those players, 100 of those guys at the tryout, it was 6 of us that made it. 6. So to tell me that I was blessed, that I was fortunate to be in that situation, to be able to make the cut, was an understatement. Like, I still look back now, and you know, like, just to be able to go on that whole journey, be as persistent as I was, and to be able to make the team out of like those low chances, something I'm really definitely proud about. And they sent us emails about, you know, 1 or 2 weeks later saying like, hey, we like what we saw from you, we think you can help our team. So we joined the team, I think either that late February or early March. So we're already past the first semester, we're in the spring semester, and we joined the team like late February, right? Right when I joined the team, that's how I already knew that this football thing wasn't gonna be what I thought it was, right? When we first joined, we're thinking that we're gonna have our own lockers in the locker room, like they're gonna have our names and our pictures up, you know, like they do every other player. They put us in the visitors' locker room, bro. The visitors' locker room, like, bro, anybody knows the visitors' locker room isn't nearly as nice as the home locker room. So like, you know, that was crazy. That's how I already knew in my mind that things were not gonna be what I thought they were when I first joined. So the 6 of us, we started off as walk-ons. We were in that visitors locker room. It was like crazy. I was like, what? Like, we don't even got our own locker? That's crazy. And I remember when I first joined, like the workouts used to be so hard. They not hard now, but I had never trained like that in so long, because it's a different component when you have to add like a whole team component where everybody's training, moving at a fast pace. You got the strength coaches on you talking about do this, jog to here, run this. So it was like, I remember like the first week or two, I was just totally dead after workouts. I used to just lie down in that locker room, the visitors locker room, for like hours after I was done, and just like, just lie down there thinking of what I got myself into, but that's, kind of what happens when you go into like a new adjustment, when you go on a new journey, that when you first start, it might seem like that it's not for you. It might seem to be wearing you out. It might seem to be defeating you, but it was all just part of my process to just adjust to what I'd already said I wanted before, because I said I wanted to play ball, so I had to be able to deal with the work that came with it, but just so y'all know, like when you start on something like this, it's not going to be easy at first. You're going to definitely have to strain and fight and adjust yourself to what you're getting yourself into, but I think it's definitely worth it once you get used to it. So we went through maybe 2-3 weeks of training, right? We're still trying to learn like the lifts. They're just kind of teaching us. They're putting us through like kind of like a introductory lift plan, and eventually spring ball starts. Spring ball starts maybe late February, early March, and we had two practices, and then COVID hit. So the timing couldn't have been any more crazy to be able to be a new walk-on, to barely be on the team, to now, okay, I'm going through spring ball and now COVID hits. So now it's like everybody just had to go home like immediately. So right then and there, you could imagine like what's going through my mind. Like I literally just made the team. I've been on the team for no more than a few weeks, and we literally all have to go home because of COVID. So, that summer was a really, not even that summer. We went home in like March. So that spring, like we were kind of just having like Zoom meetings and stuff like that, checking in, team meetings, stuff like that. And then school ends, and that summer they're planning on bringing us back. Now our workouts had to be a little different. They had us like working out in like little small groups we called pods, So, me, I'm stressing, I'm worrying, I'm trying to make sure that like, I'm able to come back in the summer. And so I'm texting, the people I needed to text, I'm texting the coaches, the recruiting people, and basically they had told me, okay, we'll bring you back in June. And then eventually June turned into July, and July turned into right before fall camp. So I literally did not come back to the team, right until before fall camp, which I kind of probably could have expected, just because they were still trying to figure out and take care of who they needed to take care of, which was our scholarship players and older players that had been on the team. So for me, who had just walked on and been on the team for like, 2-3 weeks, especially as a freshman, I really wasn't a priority. So, it was up to me to make sure I was staying in shape, training, and taking care of myself, which I did. During COVID, I remember I like trained every day. I was going to the field, getting my work in. They had given us like this big resistance band, and there was like a bunch of exercises and workouts you could do with the resistance band. And then like I would use the resistance band, and then I would do like some field conditioning that they had given us. So it was definitely like a hustle, it was a grind. All of us probably know kind of how it was during COVID, where you just had to really like do things by yourself, take care of yourself, be by yourself a lot. But I learned a lot about myself throughout that process, learned that I did have the consistency and the discipline to be able to like work and stay down for something that I wanted. And so, to be able to go to the field every day and get my work in and train every day. And I would have to like hop the high school field because they had locked down the field. So I would have to like jump over the fence. There was like this really tall gate that they would have, and I would have to like throw my bag over, and then I would have to climb up the gate and like jump over it to get onto the field. And I did this like literally pretty much every day.